Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I think it's episode 4, season 1 of the Pitcast. Pilot. Not that I needed to do one. I kind of made my mind up that this is something I need to do. But I suppose its frequency was in question. But thanks to the poll and the guys on the WhatsApp channel, weekly I can do. And it seems like week on week there's such this massive void and gap. I don't know, maybe I should expand into other content options during the week in a build up to Sunday, seeing as how I have carte blanche over this project. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. You are welcome to share. And please do like and subscribe if you aren't subscribed and listening to this. And before I sort of hammer that point home, I want to just remind everyone that 1 October 2024 is it. I'm not going to actively chase people up for their VIP codes that they are entitled to. And I believe you are entitled to it. But it is your choice if you want it or not. Either way, I'm giving away 2,000 VIP statuses. So I'll touch a little bit on that. What that is essentially a thank you from me to you. And it really is a thank you to the first 1,000 that, transformed this channel. I keep saying that. And you have no idea how relevant that is. This project started out, and I'll raise it again, with me seeing a problem almost 20 years ago. And I kind of alluded to that this past week in my discussion, or rather message exchange with a few individuals. And it's going to get to that point where I start asking those questions as well. And the questions are going to be around development. What development has there been in the sport? And I'm just using my time in the sport as an example. But I can go back further. I can go back 30 years. I can go back 34 years. I can go back 40 50, 60, 70 years. And I can go and analyze what history has shown and what is recorded in history. Everything is written in ink, especially with the internet. I certainly am not afraid of that. And I've said before, I'm no angel. But if you're going to come at me, you best come with the facts. And you best stick to one story. Finger pointing is not going to sit well with me. And, development, not just in this sport or this discipline of motorsport, development in general has been poor in this country. And I'm going to call out a lot of individuals and businesses, for their lack of actual interest in transformation and for just being all talk. And it's all those who will respond to this and tell me, yeah, Dom, but, you just all talk, who are the exact ones that I'm targeting. I'm going to say this again, and I've said this before. I could have been sitting around waiting for City of Cape Town to get off their gat, take their finger out of each other's holes, and get on board and say, hey, this is good for the economy, good for the country, good for the people. But it's clear to me that they just see what's good for their pockets. And that's just one example. I'm not going to hop on only that, because I'll get another ignorant individual that will say, you can't keep blaming the government. Yes, I can. I'm not only blaming them. I'm holding all of us accountable. Could I do more? Most probably. In fact, yes. I mean, I've done wrong before, and I think about it now, and I was like, you know what? If I didn't spend that money here, I could have spent that money on this. I could have spent it on that. But I learned from that. And that is why I say I don't make mistakes. Because failing is learning. What's your excuse? You know? There's plenty of oaks out here in the car community. And that's kind of what's wrong with not just motorsport, what's wrong with people. Because we can apply this to any industry, any individual, any organization, anywhere where there are people involved. And as much as I love people, we are superly and enormously flawed. And I don't expect you to agree with me. And to be honest, it's really not for me to worry about. I don't worry about what I can't control. So you are entitled to your opinion. I welcome you to your opinion. You know, I'm only interested in what adds value. Whether it's positive or negative or appears negative, if it's constructive in the way of criticism, I'm all ears. In fact, touch all of my senses. Make me feel, believe, smell, taste, hear, see. All of it. If it has merit, you'll have my support. You know, there's a lot of people that have said over the years, oh yeah, whatever you need, you know, just give me a shout. Still waiting. But it's not like I expected you to do anything. I don't expect anything of anyone. That's why I'm never disappointed. I just do it, put the request out there to prove a point. And, you know, it brings me back to a few years ago when I was at Midval. My very first broadcast from Midval, in fact. And, you know, not just Gauteng, but throughout South Africa, coming across content creators and just asking simple questions. But the defensiveness, it amazes me. You know, the reluctance to answer questions with answers amazes me. People answer questions with questions. Hey, you know, is your channel, how does this monetization work? Oh, why you want to know? Really? There goes your chance of ever collaborating with me. And you've had a second chance. You know who I'm talking about. You know who you are. But that very same individual, the following year, last year, comes up to me expecting answers from me for similar questions that I asked in 2022. And he got answers. So that kind of narrows down the population by 50%. It's a he. I gave him answers. And whether his questions were to fish for information or whatever the intention, you know, I can see that a mile away. Don't let my appearance fool you. Everything is a test. Every interaction with me is forming a finite or finalized opinion of what our relationship is going to be. And make no mistakes, never did I say anywhere that I need you. I only opened up the opportunity and offered a chance to work together. There are 65 million of us in this country. And that number's obviously changed. 65 million. And there are many millions that lack opportunity. And it's those that I will give the opportunity to. You know, none of us asked to do this or were asked to do this. This project in particular, no one said, Dom, can you please do this? It'll really help. Now, I chose this. So why complain about it? Why moan and nag? Oh, this is so expensive and it doesn't make money, and sometimes a video this and sometimes a video that, and this one has 10,000 views and that one only has 1,000. And it's like people that I see on a daily basis that come, I'm so busy. Oh, the work is piling up. 5 minutes later, you'll see them chatting on a phone, on a personal call that's of non-importance. But a few moments ago, they were just complaining about their workload. I think if people, and like I said, it's not just in motorsport where the problems are, but if people would just put their head down and get on with it, we'd have such few issues. This level of ignorance amongst I don't even know if I can call them fellow organizers. I won't call them fellow organizers. I call them failed organizers. But the ignorance is beyond me. The failure to answer the simplest of questions. But the approach of defensiveness that is so prevalent. It's actually quite sad to see. And it's obvious to me why there's been no development in this country and probably globally. No real development of the sport. Firstly, people are afraid of competition. How sad is that? And for many years, obviously, I've only ever known Cape Town Motorsport. I mean, the very first opportunity I had when I was of the means to travel was to Kyalami. When, VW South Africa, SEAT South Africa, whatever you want to call it, entered their SEATs into Bridgestone production cars under Class T. And even then, in memory, coming to think of it, communication was a problem for people. When I decided on the last minute, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to go down. I sent out a message to everyone. I said, guys, I'm going to go down to Kyalami. Anyone keen to go? And, some people would look at that as, well, what a ridiculous question. Who's going to have a chance to just go and pay for airline tickets and fly just to go and watch a race? Well, if you're really passionate about something, you're not going to complain about the costs. And I've seen that far too often, especially this past week, most notably yesterday. Oh, racing's become so expensive. No, it hasn't. You can race anything. If you want to progress, improve, break records, go faster, yes, it's going to cost you. But it doesn't have to be expensive in that respect either. We're full of excuses. Reasons why we can't do something, reasons why something can't happen, instead of looking at trying at the very least and how we can maybe make something happen. We're not willing to. We're willing to look at why we can't. Constantly make excuses. That's people in my life, that's strangers, it's friends, family, foes, it's all of them that I come across on a daily basis. And the minute I hear that, you lose me. You may not register, but you've lost me. I'm looking at you, but inside I'm going, for fuck's sakes, I'm wasting my time here. And I'm not going to make apologies or apologize for me using expletives. And I'm going to say this as I keep saying it. Expletives convey the gravitas, because people don't see and hear otherwise. So a word may slip out here or there and you may form an opinion based on that. Again, you are more than welcome to form any opinion. I've said it before, I'm not here to be nice. I can be. And I've been told that before. Most notably, a very memorable comment is, geez, Dom, you're the nicest person I've never met. And when I met the guy, he was like, geez, you are actually very nice. And even I told, I said, well, get on my wrong side and you'll see a very ugly, different person. And that trip to Kyalami was eye-opening for me. Not that I haven't traveled prior to that. I haven't traveled for the sake of motorsport prior to that. 2007, 2008, thereabouts. I mean, it was quite contentious with that vehicle being entered or being brought into the country and its placement amongst the competition within itself as an organization. But either way. And, just seeing a different track, a different province, going with two of my mates. And I suddenly saw, not that I hadn't with my previous travels, but I suddenly saw the same thing we sit with here in this province. And that is, people want to be big fish in a small pond. I mean, last week I spoke about ridiculous records. If you want to go and catch episode 3, I'll place a link in the description. Or you can just search for 1 September and listen to that. But ultimately, it comes down to that. One of the problems in motorsport. People want to be big fish in a little pond. I've seen that for years. Some have changed. Some have realized the error in their ways. And they've become better people. They've become humble. They've grown up, I suppose. Or they're just masking it very well. But that seems to be the problem in Cape Town. That's prevalent. And like I just said, it appears to be everywhere. Maybe not on a grand scale as here, but it's, well, human nature, I suppose. One of the 16 character traits that makes up us. And there's this air of cockiness and arrogance among people that, I don't know, they don't seem genuine. They seem disingenuine, if that's a word. I think that is. They ingratiate themselves unto us, but their intentions become clear over time. Now, I mean, I don't consider myself the best judge of character, as in perfect. But I have learned a few things. If your story changes, red flag 1. If you have an intention and a purpose and you speak a truth, then there is only one. You can't have different sort of variations or versions. Especially when it changes. And, people need to take what I say in a certain context. And if you don't understand the context, first ask. Don't make assumptions, because you're going to make a serious ass of yourself. This program and project again, and I'll probably repeat this at every single opportunity that I am live and in every single discussion. This is about education. There's a lot of stakeholders that make up motorsport, as with anything. It's not just spectators and athletes. It's not just marshals. It's not just organizers or promoters or track owners or track operators or fire, AMBO, safety services. It's not just maintenance teams, cleanup crews, pit crews, caterers, and so forth. I mean, there is so much that we need to focus on, that we need to correct. It's a shame that we overlook certain things. and on a lot of levels, from an operational level, from a sort of event flow slash falling under operation level, from a planning perspective, from a marketing perspective. There are so many problems that we just are choosing to ignore or don't see, or we are aware of but we want it to remain as such because there's an agenda, you know. And I, for one, would love to get the full picture, but people don't want to communicate. And as I said, when I sent a message out, when I decided, to me, that's communication. Guys, I'm thinking of going on to Joburg. Anybody want to go with? Extending it into anyone want me to maybe take pics or do something specific. There's a certain limit to that. But then my two mates came, yeah, we were also going to go. And I was like, oh, yeah, it would have helped if you told me this beforehand, because then we could have planned something. We could have engaged, could have collaborated. We could have maybe said, hey, let's make a weekend of it. Go down the Friday, go and check in with the teams, and take a walkabout and enjoy the full experience. But people don't communicate. And then we want to cry. We don't get nice things. So, yeah. Where to begin? I've outlined my 9 phases. I've outlined what the purpose is here, what the end goal is. Many have asked me what it is here. And it still comes down to education. And I mean, not just for the stakeholders that I mentioned there. Government is also a stakeholder. Government oversees a few of the stakeholders that are involved in sport from a perspective of their responsibility to the general public, to a nation, to ensure that there is governance over eventing. And that's really the only reason why I met with City of Cape Town. And I brought this up before, to say, hey guys, I want to do this. And I believe it's been railroaded a few times. I would like to know why and by who. And failure to be compliant just means we're going to go and fight it out in court, bottom line. And people get very scared when I say that. Why are you scared? We could avoid it if you just open. We could avoid it if when questions are asked, answers are given. Why the secrecy? Or at least tell me, no, Dominic, I'm not going to answer you. And then give me a reason. What's so hard in that? But the defensiveness, you are just opening yourself up for further attack. And I've said it before as well, City wasn't very helpful. City first thought I came there under the premise of a different organization, or that I was aligned to another organization. And I had to correct them and say, I'm sorry. Clearly a narrative has been painted here, and that's not the case. I'm here as myself, as an individual / organization, with the aim to do this. And that, that kind of threw everyone off. So it's clear they came prepared. But no one told me about that. Would have been nice if I had some sort of idea of what I was walking into. But unfortunately for them, at the end of that meeting, they had nowhere to hide their faces. They had no argument with any kind of merit for the statements I made. They had no answers for my questions, which just painted a picture for me of a government 20 years, well, not 20 years, 17 years into a voted democracy. That was no different now than they were in 1994. And I'm referring to 2021 here. No different. And the faces you expect to be running your government is not the faces that you vote for. And the reality is that a certain party that you could be voting for could have employees that support another party. That's their right. The problem with people is their lack of transparency, their lack of objectiveness gives way to, or is sort of put on the back burner in favor of agenda. Now, what that is something that, I could spend my time investigating and finding out. But the reality is those people suffer. They don't register, but they suffer. And it's ugly, the kind of suffering that occurs, where they will seek sympathy and, they just don't understand why. Why is this happening? I can tell you why, because you're a doers. And I say that because there are people suffering. But you will rather railroad every angle and opportunity because your pocket's going to suffer. And if not that, what is your reason? From a government perspective, from a public sort of servant corporation perspective, what is your end goal here? If someone comes to you and presents an idea to benefit everyone, and I think I've formulated it and molded it and coined it into something beautiful. It provides insight, gives information, educates, empowers people, and uplifts them. And we're not talking about motorsport anymore. We're talking in general. That's always been the concept. As I've said before, I am using motorsport as the vehicle because I love motorsport. I don't waste my time on things that I'm not passionate about or things that I don't enjoy. What a waste of time. And it's unfortunate that most people have no choice but to do that because they have responsibilities. They are in a situation, they've found themselves under a certain circumstance. My gripe's not with them. The individual, the organization, the faction, the movements that have brought about their own misfortune. You guys need to stop and think, why the hell? And you'll find the answer. It'll come to you very quickly if you are true. If you're going to continue to be arrogant and, I don't know why this oak is doing this and why this is happening. You're just, grasping at straws, looking for support, pointing the finger, Everyone's the problem but you. At least if you're going to complain about something, have some merit in your complaint and argument. Have it mean something. Have it be relevant. I mean, what more? What more can we say about City of Cape Town? It's, I don't know, antiquated machine with old ideologies run by old individuals, some of whom retired and then were asked to come back. How do you like that? 30 years on, or short, just shy of 30 years on, in voted for democracy, and there was no continuity. Are you kidding me? Again, that has to be a human issue. I have to keep what I know close to the chest. Can't exchange knowledge with the next person. I'm going to lose my job. If you lose your job, it means you're bad at your job. I mean, how many times have I sat in court where I get an arsehole on the stand giving me a statement and I ask them the simplest of questions. What qualifies you as being competent enough to make those statements and give your opinion on a specific matter. And then I'll get a usual response. Oh, I've got 50 years experience, 30 years experience. I'm a qualified structural engineer, I'm qualified mechanical engineer. And then my next statement is usually, you could have just been shit at it for all these years. So don't come to me with your experience and your qualifications. If you are bad at something, you are bad at it. Doesn't matter how many years you've been doing it. That's what's relevant. So, I mean, city events in general, I assume are enjoyable. Otherwise, people wouldn't go to them. Or are all those people really just first timers? And we don't know because the numbers are the numbers. That's all we see. We had 100,000 people last year. We've got 100,000 this year. It's stable. But there's how many millions of people in this city alone? And other events are not so fortunate. Sure, we had 100 people, but last event we had 1,500. There may be many reasons for that. And that's something that's worth looking into to figure out what the problems are there. But I mean, we've got some serious issues. And as for me, this project, whether it folds or whether it succeeds, and I'm pretty sure it will succeed, it can only fold if I give up. And I'm not one to give up. This project has a lot of hurdles. And I've posted on my channel, or on my WhatsApp channel rather, all the ideas that I've tried and things that I want to put in place to make a success of this. And it's obviously time dependent. And like I said earlier, you've got these individuals like, you said you were going to do this and nothing's happening. What did you expect? I mean, if you are of the means, why aren't you doing anything? And if you're not willing to do anything, why aren't you then saying, hey Dom, I'm of the means. How's about you try this, or engage with me? But I'm going to say again, I don't need that if your intention isn't in the right place. If you're just looking to say something without having something to say, to look good because you've got an audience, then enjoy the moment. I certainly forget about it, put it out of mind. I can recall it and convey it to you years from now, thanks to my memory. But I mean, why waste my time on individuals like that? The most to say with the least willingness to do anything to contribute. You don't need people like that. But you're more than welcome to attend events. There's a queue. No fear, no favor. Pay full price. Or don't. This is not about you. This is not about me. It's about all of us. But I must make it clear, I'm not the one suffering. When it comes to this, I'm most certainly not the one suffering. And I stand at Killarney and I think to myself, how many kids, individuals, organizations could we give insight to and change for the better by having them here? And then most recently, you try and help an event organizer to get people to the event, to get, in part, people to support and cheer, which is good for competitors, but to also get people to see what's happening, what's out there, instead of just what they are used to. Give them something different or new, or rekindle something that they may have seen a few years ago and just lost touch with. But it's sort of a lack of interest in that regard because they're not benefiting. Really? It's a bit selfish. I mean, I'm going to be open and upfront with you. When I met with WPMC, and it was in part for a section or portion of this project under the phases to support and promote races, was the idea to hire the track privately. And not just Killarney, but a track or space in every province. And I'm sure someone's going to steal this idea as well and then, make some lovely content and mention it every 5 seconds. You're more than welcome. And just for my own peace of mind, operate events for the sake of gathering data. Because it's such a mess. I mean, you can't have classes with one car and then that's the winner. Really? I mean, there are processes and systems in place to declare a winner within a sport. That's why it's a sport and not just a recreation, because there's measurement. So why not implement the system and let the system dictate or decide if there's a clear winner or if there is no winner? And then a second place alternative, you failed the system, you failed yourself, even though it was just you. So we can't call it a race, but let's make it a measurement against the system that has been put in place under regulation. But it seems as though, the thoughts not being catered for there. Or, we've got a class of 6 cars. 5 of them won for a first round race. The one that lost, but he got the quickest time, so he's the winner. What BS is that? I mean, just the thought of what's been happening has actually been sickening to me. There's no other way to explain it. It's sickening. And so for me to hire the track and say, guys, come and race, but it's just for the guys racing. We don't want your loudmouth voorloopers, as we call them, dancing and cheering on the track in support of their, Gwala whatever. We're looking for races. Real races. Not people here to, run a time and then, I bought this, I bought this Golf and took it here for a downpipe and here for a chip and, name dropping all these wonderful brands just so that they can run a 9-second that they're not really running, that the car's running, that the technology is enabling them to do. Let's put it that way. There's no ability or skill there. That's probably the most upsetting. And I wanted to use that possible event, if you want to call it that, a private event, to get a better understanding of where we are. I've seen a lot of people using this term, we're a third world country. Yeah, I've been saying that for years as well. I'm amazed that people are only picking up on that now, 30 years into democracy. But What works for us? At the same time, is it a globally measured standard? Because you've got the NHRA, you've got the IHRA, you've got the Australian Drag Racing Association, you've got the European Drag Racing Association, you've got a Russian Drag Racing Association, you've got an association in the UAE, Dubai, you've got New Zealand Drag Racing Association. I don't even know what the ones in South America are called. You know, everybody loves to go, oh, we are the authority, mandated by this and that organization. But they forget that with mandating or being mandated comes responsibility, comes a promise of inclusion, change, development, transformation, however you want to word it. What have you done? So now I'm sitting here going, oh, well, you know, let's just go back to 4AF, 4BF, 4CF, 4AR, 4BR, and likewise for 6, 8, 10, 12, 16 cylinders. And where does that leave us? Is it internationally recognized? You've got Super Eliminator, Comp Eliminator, Super Stock, Pro Stock, Modified Street. But when you look at the in-depth descriptions and understanding for all these classes, it's like, I mean, over 200 classes in NHRA. And I start to sit and think and rethink and go, it's got to be a much easier way. I mean, there is an international standard, and I'm not going to detail that because someone's going to steal it. But there are ways and means of getting to a standard. It's not like we run 100 meters here and then when we go to the Olympics, but it's 102 meters. So now what? Quarter mile is quarter mile. Quarter mile is not 400 meters. Quarter mile is 402.336 meters. And we can agree on that at least. You know, you've got organizations running 1,000 foot because certain cars are, too quick. You know what? I'd like to balance safety with choice and logic. We all know the sport is dangerous. We all know motorsport is dangerous. No one's held a gun to our heads, have they? Yeah, you will race this car. Or what? So, I mean, I don't understand where this sensitivity and this, false approach to the aspect of safety becomes, let's just sideline everyone so that we can do this kind of approach. That's what I see. That's kind of what I feel. So, yeah, the idea is just to give me data so I can figure out proper classing that's relevant to this country. I mean, the issue of the problems in motorsport is something we can unpack probably for a whole season and discuss each topic in detail. And maybe I would. Maybe eventually I will do that. And with court cases looming, I suppose I need to be very careful about what it is I say. But it's not going to be any different to what goes into my affidavits. But yeah, before I completely lose it, I think we just need to be more cognizant, be more mindful, be more genuine about what it is we want from this. I would certainly love to see us running for regional colors, VP colors for motorsport, enabling us to qualify for a national event that can see someone being crowned champion with national colors, acknowledged worldwide, for them to compete in some sort of Olympics of the motorsport. Hopefully someone takes that concept and goes with it, because it's going to be a couple of million, if not a billion, to put together. And if no one's willing to work together, then, let's all just be silos. And we see who comes out at the end laughing the hardest. I mean, I've pumped a lot into this. And I have no regrets. You're not going to hear me complaining about it at all. I had the time of my life. I had the best experience meeting so many individuals that needed something like this. But I will say again, on the scale of needs, there's a lot more people that have more critical and immediate needs. And for that reason, this project's going to have to take a back seat to that. There's people that don't even have water. I mean, food is the most obvious one, but there's people in this country that don't even have access to clean water. And some of us here acting like little children, pointing fingers at people because they didn't get their way. So now it's everyone else's fault. So now they want to throw everyone under the bus. But, we were following your lead. And when I start looking at these regulations and the reasons behind, I start thinking to myself, 5-star safety rated. But if you look at the actual safety rating of the vehicle, it's gotten worse from years prior to date. It's been getting worse and worse and worse, but it still has a 5-star safety rating because in other aspects, it's beneficial. So the vehicle itself is getting unsafe, but its crashability from the perspective of crashing into an individual being good for that individual, the pedestrian or the person you are crashing into, has improved. So because of that, the vehicle is 5-star safety rated. How does that help in racing? There's no obstacles on the strip. Or are we more concerned about our Audi crashing into our Golf 7R? But overall, the vehicle itself has gotten less of a rating the newer it has been. But those newer vehicles have more leeway to avoid requirements that are necessary for safety from being applied. So who the hell dreamt up that specification and technical requirement? Who's that genius? And what is his qualifications? Or she? What qualifies them as being competent enough to make that decision or pass that ruling? And if someone's going to tell me all their experience, I'm going to call bullshit. Because when you face some of these people, then you can see the look on their eye is like a deer in the road caught in the headlights. And the gears need oiling. And they maybe need to be upgraded. So yeah. If you look at NCAP safety ratings, if you actually go and look at it and open it up and pick a vehicle and look at the years. In fact, I'll post a sample. Find your way to my WhatsApp channel and you'll find a sample there. I mean, a 2014 Golf, technically, from a driver crashing his car, is safer than a 2019 Golf. And maybe I'm misreading it. I mean, I'm no professional. But when you drill down, things start to look very confusing. And I've been spending the time looking through these regulations and going, okay, even posing questions to people. I've got 3 cars. If I do this, what do I need? And it goes from a stabilizer bar to a half a roll cage to a full cage. We are never going to get development in the sport this way. Never. And that's where people are saying, oh, sport's expensive, because now suddenly they're presented with, oh, sorry, your Mark 1 Golf that's running, 12 seconds. Hey, you need to put a cage in there. And I may very well agree with that. 12 seconds is significant for a car that was built more than 40 years ago. If it's built to the same specification with the same initial regulations, then how safe is it to crash at 240 k's an hour? I mean, we've seen some hairy crashes of newer cars, and the guys have broken a finger and or an arm. That's it. They walk away from it, and you can see, the difference. But somewhere along the line, we need to reevaluate the rules. And I know someone's going to disagree with me. Again, you're more than welcome. You're more than welcome. My door's open, my number's in the description. You're more than welcome to contact me. But contact me with an argument that has merit. I understand the rules, as I said, as it relates to me as a racer. In every other aspect, I need to go and learn and read and study it, as most of you do. And a lot of people there again also complain, yes, that's a lot to read. Instead of making a statement, you could have read a sentence already. You could have made an attempt to understand it. So that's a poor excuse. I've used that term a lot this week. I can't tolerate poor excuses. And I can tolerate a lot. So, this episode of the Pitcast appears to have been a lecture. And so be it. But that's my cue. Enjoy, guys. It's been a pleasure, as always. And hope to see you next time.